Know the male and keep to the female. Become the valley of the world. Being the valley of the world is eternal power and returning to the innocence of a baby. Know the bright and keep to the obscure. Become an example for the world. Being an example for the world is eternal power and returning to the infinite. Know glory and keep to humility. Become the valley of the world. Being the valley of the world is eternal power and returning to the natural. Breaking up the natural makes instruments. The wise use them and become leaders. Therefore, a leader does not break. Those who take over the world and act upon it, I notice, do not succeed. The world is a sacred vessel not to be tampered with. Those who tamper with it spoil it. Those who seize it lose it. Some lead and some follow. Some blow hot and some blow cold. Some are strong and some are weak. Some are up and some are down. Therefore the wise avoid excess, extravagance, and pride. Whoever advises a leader according to the way opposes conquest by force of arms. The use of force tends to rebound. Where armies march, thorns and brambles grow. Whenever a great army is formed, scarcity and famine follow. The skillful achieve their purposes and stop. They do not rely on force. They achieve their purposes, but do not glory in them. They achieve their purposes, but do not celebrate them. They achieve their purposes, but do not take pride in them. They achieve their purposes, but without violence. Things reach their prime and then decline. Violence is contrary to the way. Whatever is contrary to the way will soon perish. Weapons are tools of destruction hated by people. Therefore, followers of the way never use them. In peace, leaders favor the creative left. In war, they favor the destructive right. Weapons are tools of destruction not used by good leaders. When their use cannot be avoided, the best policy is calm restraint. Even in victory there is no glory. Those who celebrate victory delight in slaughter. Those who delight in slaughter will not be successful leaders. The killing of many should be mourned with sorrow. A victory should be celebrated with funeral ceremonies. The way is absolute and undefined, like natural uncarved wood in simplicity, yet none in the world can overcome it. If leaders would hold to it, the whole world would serve them spontaneously. Heaven and earth join and gentle rain falls, beyond the command of anyone, evenly upon all. When civilization arose, names began. With names, one should know when to stop. Knowing when to stop frees one from danger. The way in the world is like rivers and streams flowing into the sea. Those who know others are wise. Those who know themselves are enlightened. Those who overcome others require force. Those who overcome themselves need strength. Those who are content are wealthy. Those who persevere have willpower. Those who do not lose their center endure. Those who die but maintain their power live eternally. The great way flows everywhere, both left and right. All things derive their life from it, and it does not turn away from them. It accomplishes its work, but does not take possession. It provides for and nourishes everything, but does not control them. Always without desires, it may be considered small. The destination of all things, yet claiming nothing, it may be considered great. Because it never claims greatness, its greatness is achieved. Hold to the great form, and all the world follows, following without meeting harm, in health, peace, and happiness. Music and delicacies to eat induce travelers to stay, but the way is mild to the taste. Looked at, it is invisible. Listened to, it is inaudible. Applied, it is inexhaustible. In order to contract, it is necessary first to expand. In order to weaken, it is necessary first to strengthen. In order to reduce, it is necessary first to build up. In order to receive, it is necessary first to give. This is called the mystic light. The soft and gentle overcome the hard and strong. As fish stay in the deep water, so sharp weapons of the state should not be displayed. The way never interferes, yet through it everything is done. If leaders would follow the way, the world would be reformed of its own accord. When reformed and desiring to act, let them be restrained by what is simply natural. Undefined simplicity is free of desires. Being free of desires, it is serene, and the world finds peace of its own accord. Superior power does not emphasize its power, and thus is powerful. Inferior power never forgets its power, and thus is powerless. Superior power never interferes, nor has an ulterior motive. Inferior power interferes, and has an ulterior motive. Superior humanity takes action, but has no ulterior motive. Superior morality takes action and has an ulterior motive. Superior custom takes action, and finding no response, stretches out arms to force it on them. Therefore, when the way is lost, power arises. When power is lost, humanity arises. When humanity is lost, morality arises. When morality is lost, custom arises. Now, custom is a superficial expression of loyalty and faithfulness, and the beginning of disorder. Foreknowledge is the flowering of the way and the beginning of folly. Therefore, the mature dwell in the depth, not in the thin, in the fruit, and not in the flowering. They reject one and accept the other. The ancients attained oneness. Heaven attained oneness and became clear. Earth attained oneness and became stable. Spirits attained oneness and became divine. The valleys attained oneness and became fertile. Creatures attained oneness and lived and grew. Kings and nobles attained oneness and became leaders. What made them so is oneness. Without clarity, heaven would crack. Without stability, the earth would quake. Without divinity, spirits would dissipate. Without fertility, the valleys would be barren. Without life and growth, creatures would die off. Without leadership, kings and nobles would fall. Therefore, humility is the basis for nobility, and the low is the basis for the high. Thus kings and nobles call themselves orphans, lonely, and unworthy. Do they not depend upon the common people for support? Dismantle the parts of a chariot, and there is no chariot. Rather than tinkle like jade, rumble like rocks. Returning is the movement of the way. Gentleness is the method of the way. All things in the world come from being, and being comes from non-being. When the wise hear the way, they practice it diligently. When the mediocre hear of the way, they doubt it. When the foolish hear of the way, they laugh out loud. If it were not laughed at, it would not be the way. Therefore it is said, the enlightenment of the way seems like dullness. Progression in the way seems like regression. The even path of the way seems to go up and down. Great power appears like a valley. Great purity appears tarnished. Great character appears insufficient. Solid character appears weak. True integrity appears changeable. Great space has no corners. Great ability takes time to mature. Great music has the subtlest sound. great form has no shape. The way is hidden and indescribable, yet the way alone is adept at providing for all and bringing fulfillment. The way produced the one produced two produced three, and three produced all things. All things have the receptivity of the female and the activity of the male. Through union with a life force they blend in harmony. People hate being orphaned, lonely, and unworthy, yet kings and nobles call themselves such. Often gain can be a loss, and loss can be a gain. What others teach, I teach also. The violent die a violent death. I shall make this primary in my teaching. The softest things in the world overcome the hardest. Non-being penetrates even where there is no space. Through this I know the value of non-action. Teaching without words and the value of non-action are understood by few in the world. Fame or your life, which do you love more? Life or material wealth, which is more valuable? Loss or gain, which is worse? Therefore, those who desire most spend most. Those who hoard most lose most. Those who are contented are not disappointed. Those who know when to stop prevent danger. Thus they can long endure. The greatest perfection seems incomplete, but its utility is never impaired. The greatest fullness seems empty, but its use cannot be exhausted. What is most direct seems devious. The greatest skill seems awkward. The greatest eloquence seems like stuttering. Movement overcomes cold. Stillness overcomes heat. The serene and calm are guides for all. When the world lives in accord with the way, horses work on farms. When the world does not live in accord with the way, the cavalry practices in the parks. The greatest temptation to crime is desire. The greatest curse is discontent. The greatest calamity is greed. Whoever is content with contentment is always content. One can know the world without going outside. One can see the way of heaven without looking out the window. The further one goes, the less one knows. Therefore the wise know without going about, understand without seeing, and accomplish without acting. The pursuit of learning is to increase day by day. The practice of the way is to decrease day by day. Less and less is done until one reaches non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. The world is led by not interfering. Those who interfere cannot lead the world. The wise have no mindset. They regard the people's minds as their own. They are good to people who are good. They are also good to people who are not good. This is the power of goodness. They are honest to those who are honest. They are also honest to those who are dishonest. This is the power of honesty. The wise live in the world peacefully and harmoniously. The people share a common heart, and the wise treat them as their own children. Coming into life and going out at death, the organs of life are 13. The organs of death are 13, and these 13 make life vulnerable to death. Why is this so? Because they feed life too grossly. It is said that those who preserve life walk the earth without fearing tigers and wild buffalo, and in battle they are not touched by weapons of war. The wild buffalo's horns find nothing to gore. The tiger's claws find nothing to tear, and the weapon's points find nothing to pierce. Why is this so? Because they have nothing for death to enter. The way produces all things. Power nourishes them. Matter gives them physical form. Environment shapes their abilities. Therefore, all things respect the way and honor power. The way is respected and power is honored without anyone's order and always naturally. Therefore, the way produces all things, and power nourishes them, caring for them and developing them, sheltering them and comforting them, nurturing them and protecting them, producing them but not possessing them, helping them but not obligating them, guiding them but not controlling them. This is mystical power. The beginning of the universe is the mother of all things. Those who discover the mother understand the children. Understanding the children and returning to the mother, they live always free from harm. Close the mouth, shut the doors, and all of life is without strain. Open the mouth, meddle with affairs, and all of life is beyond help. Seeing the small is insight. To stay with the gentle is strength. Use the light, return to insight, and thereby be preserved from harm. This is practicing the eternal. Those with even a scrap of sense walk on the main way and fear only straying from the path. The main way is smooth and easy, but people like to be sidetracked. While the courts are arrayed in splendor, the fields are full of weeds, and the granaries are empty. Yet some wear embroidered clothes, carry sharp swords, overindulge themselves with food and drink, and have more possessions than they can use. They are leaders in robbery. This is not the way. What is well established cannot be uprooted. What is firmly held cannot slip away. The power of sacrifice continues on from generation to generation. Cultivated in the person, power becomes real. Cultivated in the family, power becomes abundant. Cultivated in the community, power endures. Cultivated in the nation, power flourishes. Cultivated in the world, power becomes universal. Therefore, see the person as a person, the family as a family, the community as a community, the nation as a nation, and the world as universal. How do I know that the world is like this? By this.